Okay, class, today we're going to go over the other two kinds of stem changing verbs. They are E to I and E to IE. Just a quick review of what a stem changing verb is. Remember, when you conjugate a verb, you got two parts, the stem and the ending. For example, hablar, the stem is HABL and the ending is AR. For comer, the stem is COM and the ending is ER. And for vivir, the stem is VIV and the ending is IR. Remember that in stem changing verbs, something in that stem where the first part changes. That results in the stem being spelled differently than it normally would be. Just like before with O to UE and U to UE stem changers, the endings when you conjugate will be the same as they always are. So it's only the first part that changes. Okay, so our first E to IE verb is pensar, which means to think. So just like we did in the last video, we're going to go over sort of the conjugations, what you think they would be, versus what they actually are. So typically, if this were a regular verb, you would just take off the AR, and which would leave behind PENS, and you would add endings to that. So for yo, you would think it would be PENSO, penso. But that would be incorrect. Since that E has to change to IE, it becomes PIENSO, pienso. For two, you would think it would be pensas, PENSAS. But since you have to change the E to an IE, it becomes PIENSAS, piensas. For él, ella, and usted, you would think it would be pensa. But since the E has to change to an IE, it would be PIENSA, piensa. This is a good part to remember now, that the nosotros and the vosotros don't ever stem change. Not for these, not for the other kinds, never, never, never. So, you do not, in this case, change the E to an IE, you just leave it E. So, you would have thought it was pensamos. Hey, guess what? It's pensamos. For nosotros. For the vosotros, you would have thought it was pensáis. You'd be correct. It is, in fact, pensáis. Okay, but remember, once you go back to ellos, ellas, and ustedes, you do the change. The change has to happen. So, you would think it would be pensan, which it is not. It is, in fact, PIENSAN, piensan. Okay, there are lots of different verbs that change from E to IE other than pensar. This is just a small sample of them. There are lots more, but these are the ones you'll probably use most in Spanish 1. You have entender, which means to understand. Cerrar, which is to close. Comenzar, which is to start. Despertar, which is to wake up. Divertirse, which is to have fun. Empezar, which is to begin. Preferir, which is to prefer. Querer, which is to want. And sentir, which is to feel. Now, in the case of, say, despertar, which has two E's, you're only ever changing the one that comes immediately before the ending. So in this case, you'll change the second E. The same thing for empezar. Obviously, you're not going to change the first E. You change the one that comes immediately before the ending. Same thing with preferir. It's the second E that changes, not the first one. Okay, here are some example sentences for you. Number 1, yo no entiendo la tarea. I don't understand the homework. 2, ella se despierta a las 6. She wakes up at 6. 3, nosotros empezamos la tarea. We start the homework. Notice that for that one, I did not change the verb to an IE because it was nosotros. 4, los profesores quieren pizzas. The teachers want pizzas. 5, tú cierras la puerta. You close the door. 6, ellos comienzan a estudiar. They begin to study. The second type of stem changing verb I want to talk about today is the E to I stem changing verb. we will start with repetir, which you should know by now means repeat. Okay, so if this were a normal, regular verb, you would just take off the IR and stick on some endings. So yo would be repeto. That is not the case. Yo is repito. R-E-P-I-T-O. Tu, you would think, would be repetes. It is not. It is repites. R-E-P-I-T-E-S. You would think el, ella, and usted would be... Sorry, there's a bit of a typo there. Let me quickly fix that and get back to you. Alright, we're back. You would think it would be repete, but it is not. You have to change the E to an I, so it becomes repite. R-E-P-I-T-E. I'm gonna tell you this a million times. The nosotros and the vosotros do not stem change. So, there will be no changing of the E to I in this particular one or in the next one. So, if you thought it was nosotros repetimos, you would be correct. If you thought it was vosotros repetís, you would also be correct. However, when you get down to the ellos, ellas, and ustedes, you do have to do the stem change. So that E will, in fact, change into an I. Repeten, you might think it was. Not the case. It's repiten. R-E-P-I-T-E-N. There are lots of other E to I verbs, though not quite so many as there are E to IE. For example, competir, which means to compete. Decir, which means to say. Elegir, which means to choose. Pedir, which is to ask. Reír, which is to laugh. Servir, which is to serve. Seguir, which is to follow. And vestir, which means to get dressed. And here are some example sentences for you using E to I stem changing verbs. 1. Mi amigo Germán compite en torneos de artes marciales. My friend Germán competes in martial arts tournaments. 2. Tú pides ayuda en clase. You ask for help in class. 3. Mi madre ríe mucho. My mom laughs a lot. 4. Los chicos sirven la cena. The boys serve dinner. 5. María y yo elegimos las papas fritas. Maria and I choose the French fries. You'll notice that with elegimos, there is no stem change. It's still going to be E-L-E, not E-L-I, because this is the nosotros form. I apologize for the ambient noise in the multi, as it is a Friday afternoon, and you're probably hearing a lot of that on this video. I hope it didn't disturb you, and that you were able to learn something. Adios!